They thought a deserted rooftop was the perfect place to break the will of a black girl, but these geniuses didn't know that the quiet, well-behaved schoolgirl they pushed into the water was actually a highly trained judo champion, with no tolerance for racism. One push turned into a full-blown disaster, as the victims they thought would drown became the force that turned their world upside down. And believe me, the moment she stopped gasping for breath and began to fight back, their fate was sealed. The wind on the rooftop of Grantville High was sharp enough to sting, slicing between the metal railings and rattling loose screws along the ventilation pipes. It was the kind of wind that warned people to leave early, not linger. But Nadira Cole didn't have that luxury. She just wanted to cut through the rooftop and get to the parking lot faster. No noise, no crowds, no eyes judging her skin, her clothes, her accent, just silence. But silence died the moment the metal door slammed shut behind her. Riker Hale stepped out from the shadows with that cocky half-smile he wore like a badge. Behind him, Zane, Milo, and Trent fanned out, blocking every possible exit. 4 orange and white varsity jackets glowing under the late afternoon sun. Blaze jackets. The school's untouchable golden boys. The same boys everyone told her to avoid. Unfortunately, they had no intention of avoiding her. Well, Riker drawled, dragging his words like a knife. Look who thinks she can skip past us like we're invisible. Nadira didn't respond. She didn't break stride, didn't give him even half a glance. She simply angled her path toward the stairs on the far side of the roof. That was enough to set Riker off. Oh, she's ignoring you, man, Zane laughed. Doesn't even respect the king of Grantville, Milo joined in, mocking her voice with a fake accent. Trent clapped loudly, barking like she was some kind of circus act. Nadira inhaled slowly, keeping her eyes ahead. They weren't worth her breath. They weren't worth anything. But Riker couldn't accept that. He stepped forward, cutting her off completely. Say something when your betters talk to you. Nadira sidestepped, clean, silent, precise. And that was the last straw. Riker's face twisted. Teach her a lesson. Zane and Milo moved instantly, dragging a metal bucket from the maintenance corner, the rooftop cleaning water tank. Half full, always cold, they slid it behind Nadira like setting a trap. Trent cracked his knuckles. Riker grabbed her. His fist knotted into her curls, jerking her backward so hard her spine arched. The shock stunned her just long enough for him to shove her head down, toward the bucket. You think you're too good for us? He snarled. Her breath caught, then, splash, her face plunged into freezing water. The shock hit like electricity. Water rushed into her nose, burning up her sinuses. Her hands shot out instinctively, gripping the rim of the bucket as she tried to lift herself, but Riker's weight bore down harder, stronger. Zane whooped. Drown that attitude out of her. Milo slapped the metal railing. Yeah, teach her what real Grantville looks like. Trent leaned in, laughing so hard he spit. Look at her. Look at her. The water muffled everything. Nadira's lungs screamed. Her heartbeat hammered against her skull. Every second felt like a fist, squeezing the air out of her body. She tried to twist out of Riker's grip, but he slammed her down again, submerging her deeper. Her fingers slipped on the wet rim. The rooftop spun. The sky vanished. All she could feel was the cold, cold water, cold hands, cold hatred. Her foot slid, losing what little balance she had. The bucket scraped violently against the ground, tilting under the force. Riker laughed, breath hot against her ear. What? Suddenly quiet, not so proud now? But Nadira wasn't quiet. She was calculating. In the darkness behind the water's blur, something shifted inside her. Not panic, not fear. Something older, sharper, forged through years of discipline on judo mats, where breath and balance meant survival. Her fingers curled not to pull away, but to anchor. Her knee adjusted not in retreat, but in alignment. Her lungs burned, but she held, because she knew something they didn't. This wasn't how her story ended. Riker yanked her up for air just enough for her to cough, choke, gasp, before slamming her down again. Her scream drowned into bubbles. The boys cheered louder. "More! Do it again! Make her beg!" She asked for it. Water sloshed everywhere, splattering across their jackets, dripping off her chin, soaking her collar. The rooftop floor turned slick and dangerous. But something else was happening, something none of them noticed. In the far corner of the rooftop, mounted high on the rusted metal panel, a tiny maintenance camera, a camera most people assumed was broken, blinked awake. A green light flickered steadily, recording, storing, capturing every second. The wind pushed aside a loose cable just enough for the camera's view to widen and center perfectly on the chaos unfolding around the bucket. Riker pressed harder. "Look at her, boys. Little princess can't swim." Zane leaned closer. "Hey, pull her up, let's see her face when she cries." Riker yanked Nadira upward. Water cascaded off her hair, her chin, her eyelashes. She coughed violently, gripping the ground, her breath ragged and raw. But her eyes weren't the eyes of a frightened girl anymore. They were cold, focused, predatory. Riker froze for a split second. Just a split second. But it was enough, because Nadira had reached the line between prey and something far more dangerous. Her soaked hair clung to her cheeks. Her hands, trembling from cold, steadied against the concrete. Her shoulders squared. Her jaw tightened. Her fear didn't vanish. It transformed. Her gaze lifted slowly, locking onto Riker with a calm so sharp it cut through the laughter around her. Zane stopped cheering first, then Milo, then Trent. Something about her look made the rooftop feel smaller, thicker, like the air itself had shifted sides. Riker twitched. "What are you looking at?" he snapped. "I'm not done teaching you." But he didn't finish, because Nadira rose, not fast, not dramatic, just controlled, measured, a stance that didn't belong to a victim on a rooftop, but to someone who had spent a lifetime mastering the art of turning another person's strength against them. And the camera kept rolling. Riker took a step forward, reaching for her hair again, never realizing he had already lost the advantage. He dragged in a breath, preparing to shove her head into the water a second time, not knowing the moment he touched her again, the entire rooftop and the entire story would spiral beyond anything he could control. The wind tore across the rooftop like a warning siren, snapping Nadira's wet collar against her neck as Riker grabbed her arm again. His fingers dug in, rough and furious, the grip of someone who couldn't stand being defied. Water still dripped from her chin, but her stance had changed. Her breath steadied, her spine straightened. Something in her presence felt different. And Riker felt it, even if he couldn't name it. "You're not walking away from me," he growled, yanking her toward the bucket. The rooftop's edge loomed only a few feet behind her cold metal railing, chipped paint, and a fatal drop. The gusts were stronger here, whipping through the space like invisible fists. Her shoes slid slightly on the wet concrete. Riker mistook that for weakness. He made his move. With a violent jerk, he dragged her toward the bucket, forcing her neck down. The water rippled, as if anticipating another plunge. But this time, Nadira wasn't the same girl who had choked and gasped and clawed for air minutes earlier. This time, she moved with intention. Her arm rotated smooth, precise, almost invisible to the untrained eye. A judo reflex, ingrained through years of practice. She shifted her wrist just enough to break the angle of Riker's grip. His fingers slipped from her skin as if she'd become made of smoke. His balance faltered. "What the?" Riker stumbled forward, caught completely off guard. Zane, Milo, and Trent froze. Nadira didn't shove him. She didn't strike. She simply let his own weight betray him, redirecting the force he'd put into dragging her. His momentum carried him past her, chest slamming awkwardly against the side of the bucket. Water sloshed out, splattering across the concrete. For the first time, silence fell. Riker blinked, stunned. He wasn't the only one. "What was that?" Milo muttered. "She slipped," Zane said, voice shaky even as he tried to sound confident. "Just slipped." But Nadira wasn't slipping. She was centering, her feet planted shoulder-width apart, Her right hand hovered near her hip, ready, relaxed. Her breathing slowed into a measured pattern, steady as a drum. Every detail about her posture contradicted their expectations. She wasn't running. She wasn't begging. She wasn't folding under pressure. She was preparing, and they didn't know how to process that. Riker pushed off the bucket and glared at her, face red, pride wounded. "Think you're clever? That little trick won't save you." But the shift had already happened. He lunged. Nadira didn't retreat. She pivoted at the last second, letting him grasp at empty air. His shoulder swung past her, momentum dragging him slightly to the right. It was controlled, clean, intentional. Something inside Zane snapped. Fear and humiliation twisted together in his stomach. He had cheered loudest earlier. Now his voice was gone. "I got her," he snarled, stepping forward. "Zane, wait," Trent tried to say. Too late. Zane moved fast, charging from behind like a predator going for a weakened target. But Nadira heard everything, the scrape of his shoes, the rush of displaced air, the stutter of his breath. She turned, not in panic, in calculation. He swung his arm toward her shoulder, aiming to shove her off balance. But she dipped under the strike, her hand grazing the rooftop for an anchor point. Her knee bent, her torso rotated, and his blow cut through empty space. By the time Zane realized he'd missed, Nadira was already behind him. Her palms pressed lightly into the center of his back, not to hurt him, but to redirect him. She guided his momentum forward with a sharp exhale, adding only the pressure needed to exaggerate his stumble. Zane crashed full force into the metal ventilation system. The impact thundered across the rooftop. A hollow, metallic echo rang out deep, jarring, impossible to ignore. Milo flinched. Trent's jaw dropped. Even Riker, halfway through standing upright, froze at the sound. Zane slid down the side of the vent, coughing, shock stamped across his face. What did she just do?" Trent whispered. Nadira's silhouette sharpened in the afternoon sun. Wet hair clung to her cheeks. The wind whipped strands across her forehead. Her chest rose and fell steadily, not in fear, but in control. The look in her eyes was no longer frantic or lost. Those eyes had focus, dominance, a quiet, dangerous confidence. She wasn't trembling anymore. She wasn't drowning. She wasn't theirs to break. Nadira stared at them one by one, letting the truth settle like dust. She wasn't the victim in this moment. They were. The pause stretched, thick and electric. Blaze Jackets, who had moments ago roared with laughter, now stood as if seeing their target for the first time. They had expected a girl who would fold under pressure, gasping for breath, begging for mercy. Instead, she stood before them like a fighter who had finally decided she was done running. Riker's throat tightened. Don't look at us like that." But Nadira did, unblinking, unshaken. Her gaze locked onto him, steady and cold, the gaze of someone who had tasted fear and survived it. Someone who had chosen to stop retreating. It wasn't anger in her eyes, it was clarity, a silent message: "I will not bend." The wind howled behind her, lifting the corner of a rooftop tarp and slapping it hard against the railing. The sky darkened slightly as a cloud drifted overhead, casting shadows across the scene. Milo swallowed hard, his voice cracked. "Man, she's not supposed to be like this." Trent shook his head. "She's not normal." They were wrong. She was exactly what she had always been. But now they were finally seeing it. Nadira shifted her stance slightly, resetting her footing as if preparing for the next hit. Her shoulders relaxed, her center lowered. Every part of her body communicated one simple truth: she was ready. "Are you?" The tension snapped like a wire pulled too tight. Riker opened his mouth to speak. Zane groaned on the ground. Milo's fists trembled. Trent took a step backward, and Nadira did nothing. She simply stared. A stare that cut more deeply than any punch she could have thrown. Her eyes locked onto them, steady, fearless, stripped of hesitation. Eyes that no longer belonged to a girl they could intimidate. Milo, humiliated and shaking with rage, charged forward without thinking, setting off a chain reaction that would escalate the rooftop into full chaos. The rooftop stretched open behind Nadira, an exposed battlefield of concrete, rattling vents, loose buckets, and sharp winds slicing between the railings. She stood just a few yards from the stairwell door now, pushed there by the chaos, her shoes leaving faint streaks of water on the ground. The space felt wider, emptier, more dangerous. One wrong step could send someone over the edge, and Milo decided that someone would be her, his face twisted with rage as he staggered up from Zane's fall. The humiliation of watching Nadira slip free, outmaneuver two of them burned deeper than any injury. Rage made him blind, stupid, reckless. She wants to fight? Milo snarled. I'll show her a fight. Milo, don't, Trent warned, but his voice fell apart. Milo didn't hear anyone, or he didn't care. He charged. Not like Riker controlled. Smug, slow enough to show off. Not like Zane calculating, striking from behind. Milo stormed forward with reckless intent, a bull sprinting without aim, pure muscle behind every stomp. His sneakers slapped the concrete, sending vibrations through the rooftop floor. His breath came in harsh grunts, and his eyes wide, bloodshot, unhinged, locked on Nadira like she was prey. His plan was obvious from the first step. Shove her, hard, off the ledge. If needed, give her a scare she wouldn't forget. He didn't know that in Judo, charging straight ahead was not an attack. It was a gift. Nadira held her ground, her hair whipped across her cheek, her pulse steadied, her mind emptied of fear, noise, and cold water. Everything narrowed down to angles, foot placement, force, direction. The rooftop wasn't just a rooftop. It was a tatami mat with sharper edges. Milo lunged. His hands reached for her shoulders, fingers spread wide, ready to push. Nadira stepped in. Not back, not aside, in. Her left foot slid diagonally across the concrete, body rotating into Milo's momentum. His arms barely brushed her shoulder before she redirected them, guiding his force with the precision of someone who understood balance better than he understood his own strength. Her hips sank, her torso twisted, her right arm threaded under his. Milo stumbled forward, expecting resistance, and found none. Nadira's voice came out in a low, steady exhale, the kind a fighter uses to center their strike. Then Ippon Seoinage. Perfect, clean, devastating. Her shoulder became the pivot. Her hips became the fulcrum. Her motion became the throw. Milo's body snapped forward, feet leaving the ground as if he'd been yanked upward by an invisible hand. His back arched mid-air, mouth open in silent confusion. The world flipped around him, the sky, the vent, the railing, Nadira's silhouette. Then crash. His body slammed into the concrete so hard the sound cracked through the air. A hollow, shocking, spine-rattling impact that echoed across the rooftop and down the building's walls. For a split second, everything stopped. The wind cut out. The boys froze. Even the loose tarp near the railing stilled, as if the entire rooftop held its breath. Milo groaned, just once. Then, his head dropped back against the concrete, arms splayed out like he'd been dropped from the sky. Zane blinked in disbelief. Trent's lips parted, but no sound came out. Riker's jaw clenched so hard the muscles in his neck jumped. "What the hell?" Zane whispered. No one answered. They couldn't, because none of them had seen anything like that in their privileged, consequence-free lives. They had thrown punches, shoved kids, beat down smaller students in locker rooms and hallways for years, but none of them had ever witnessed a move so practiced, so calculated, so effortless. Nadira hadn't just resisted. She had dominated. She took one slow breath, steady and deliberate, grounding herself again. The wind tugged at her damp sleeves, but she didn't waver. Below the rooftop, something shifted. A teacher, Mr. Hanley from the math department, had been walking across the courtyard, coffee in hand. The loud crash above made him look up, and there, through the glare of the sun, he saw it. A body, Milo's, hitting the roof with unnatural force. His brow furrowed. His steps stopped. Suspicion took root. No one on the rooftop saw him yet, but he saw just enough to know something was very, very wrong. Back on the roof, Riker's breathing changed. It wasn't the casual, mocking rhythm he had earlier. Now his breath came harsher, heavier, edges rough with panic he refused to admit. She threw him, Trent whispered, voice trembling. No, she cheated, Zane insisted. She tripped him or something. But they all knew better. Especially Riker. For years, he'd controlled the school with intimidation, fear in classrooms, fear in hallways, fear in anyone too weak to fight back. No one ever pushed back. No one ever forced him to reconsider his own strength. Until now, he stared at Nadira, standing between them and the stairwell door. Quiet, centered, unwavering. Not frantic, not wounded, not weak. A threat. A real one. His lips curled as he tried to shape this into something he could still dominate. So that's how you want to play it, huh? Nadira didn't speak. She didn't need to. The silence between them was louder than the rooftop wind. Riker's eyes twitched, anger battling fear, and fear losing. No more games, he snapped. All of you now, Zane swallowed. Trent hesitated. Milo moaned on the ground. But Riker barked louder, voice cracking under pressure. Attack her! Something ugly flickered in his expression. Not just wrath, not humiliation, desperation. He realized what the others were only beginning to understand. Nadira was not the victim they thought she was. And if he didn't crush her now, he would lose everything. The wind roared harder, as if echoing his command. Zane and Trent exchanged a terrified glance, but they moved, because fear of Nadira was nothing compared to fear of defying Riker. Riker's stare sharpened with new understanding. Nadira wasn't prey, and if they didn't overwhelm her now, she would dismantle them piece by piece, jaw clenched, pride burning. Riker lunged forward, first triggering the blaze jackets to storm her together, turning the rooftop into a full-scale battlefield. The rooftop shook under pounding footsteps as the last three members of the blaze jackets surged toward Nadira. The gusts slammed into them sideways, tearing at jackets and hair, carrying the smell of cold metal and concrete. The air vibrated with a dangerous frequency, the kind that came right before something catastrophic. Nadira didn't back down, but the numbers forced her to move. Zane lunged first, grabbing for her shoulder. His fingers brushed fabric, and Nadira spun. Her body turned on instinct, hips rotating, arms sweeping upward to break his grip before it fully formed. She caught his wrist, redirected the pull, and used his momentum to slide behind him. Her hand clamped onto the inside of his elbow, clean, sharp, controlled. Then she locked. Zane gasped as his arm folded against his will. Before he could process the pain, Nadira pivoted and pushed, sending him stumbling sideways, nearly colliding with Milo's sprawled body. But she didn't have a second to breathe. Trent came next. He wasn't fast, but he was big, bigger than Milo, heavier than Riker, and far more reckless under pressure. His expression twisted between fear and fury as he grabbed the metal bucket they had used earlier. Water sloshed inside from the first assault. His knuckles whitened as he lifted it overhead. He didn't hesitate. He swung. The bucket carved a deadly arc through the air, aimed at Nadira's back. If the edge hit her spine, she could go down hard or worse, topple over the railing. But Nadira felt the shift in wind pressure before she even heard his shout. She ducked, rolling forward on one knee. The bucket whooshed past, missing by inches. Before Trent could regain balance, she swept her leg outward in a tight, powerful rotation. Her heel slammed into his ankle. Trent's foot slid out from under him. His arms flailed. The bucket flew from his hands and clattered across the rooftop with a metallic screech. The big boy dropped like a felled tree. He hit the ground on his side, air rushing out of him in a painful bark. Two down momentarily. But Riker had no intention of giving Nadira space, admiration, or acknowledgement. Instead, he pulled out his phone. He lifted it high. He aimed it directly at Nadira, and he hit record. "This psycho girl is attacking us," he shouted with breathless panic, angling the camera to capture Zane stumbling, Trent on the ground, Milo groaning. "She's gone crazy, somebody call the cops." Nadira froze, not because of fear, but because she instantly understood the shift. This was worse than fists or water or shoves. This was the kind of lie that ruined lives. Riker's voice cracked with performative terror as he stepped backward, making sure the camera only showed her as the aggressor. He stumbled deliberately, adding drama, breathing hard like he was under attack. He didn't care about the truth. He cared about control. And he knew videos traveled faster than consequences. But he had miscalculated. Horribly. Because Riker had not started a recording. He had started a live stream. A live stream connected to the school's internal student network, auto-share enabled. A feature designed for sports games and pep rallies. Within seconds, a notification pinged across multiple students' phones. Riker Hale is live. In the middle of English class, someone glanced down. In the hallway, a group of freshmen huddled around a screen. In the cafeteria, a table of juniors paused mid-conversation. Dozens became hundreds. The viewer count climbed like a lit fuse racing toward an explosion. 16 watching, 43 watching, 129 watching, 287 watching. Riker kept shouting into the camera. She attacked Milo. She threw Zane into the wall. But the live stream caught more than he realized. Milo's unconscious groan, Zane's terrified face, Trent's dropped bucket, and most damning of all, the angle of the wind revealing the bucket of water still splashed across the ground, the remnants of the first assault. Students saw everything, not the edited story Riker wanted, but the truth bleeding through the cracks. Dude, what is he talking about? Why is the bucket overturned? Isn't Milo the one on the ground? Wait, why is Nadira soaked? Bro, did they do something to her? The comments poured in faster than Riker could blink. But up on the rooftop, Riker didn't know yet. He only knew his hand was sweating around the phone. His breath rattled with desperation. His identity, his power was slipping from him, and he was clawing to take it back. Zane staggered upright, cradling his elbow. Riker, what do we do now? Shut up, Riker hissed. Just fight. We finish this before anyone. He didn't get to finish, because behind the phone's screen, unseen by him, the little red dot blinked. Live. Nadira saw it. For a moment, the world narrowed to only that dot. Not the wind, not the bruises forming on her arms, not the sting in her throat from cold water, just the tiny, pulsing circle, documenting every breath, every word, every false accusation. It changed everything. Her eyes lifted from the phone to Riker's face, and then the shift happened. The same shift that froze the boys earlier. No fear, no panic, no victimhood, just resolve. A deep, unbreakable clarity. Her expression turned still, almost eerily calm, and the camera caught it. Riker swallowed hard. "What are you looking at?" he barked, voice cracking. "Stop looking at me like you're not scared." But she wasn't. Not anymore. And the viewers saw that too. A sophomore typed, "Why does she look calm while they're freaking out?" A senior replied, "I think they messed with the wrong girl." The tide was turning, quietly, rapidly, irreversibly, and Nadira felt it. She straightened her posture, rolling her shoulders back slightly, grounding her weight. Her center lowered again, readying for the next rush. Her gaze drifted from the phone to the three boys struggling to regain formation. Zane holding his arm, Trent pushing himself off the ground, Milo half-conscious but stirring. Riker's face tightened. His jaw pulsed. He finally sensed the danger wasn't the fight. It was the narrative. If the school saw Nadira this way, calm, controlled, not aggressor, his lie wouldn't hold. His power would crumble. "We're not done," he snapped, voice trembling. "All of you now." Zane limped forward. Trent roared in frustration. Even Milo began pushing himself up, dazed but determined. 3 bodies. 1 target. Rooftop wind screaming. Phone recording. Viewers multiplying. The true storm was about to begin. Down in the school hallways, phones buzzed non-stop as the live stream spread, students watching with wide eyes as the truth, raw and unfiltered, began flipping the narrative against the Blaze Jackets. And with comments exploding across screens, the rooftop fight took a dangerous new turn. One Riker never anticipated, but one Nadira had no choice but to survive. The rooftop fight was no longer a private act of cruelty. It had become a broadcast event. Riker's trembling hand held his phone outward, camera pointed at Nadira, but the screen in his palm was lighting up with something he did not expect. Comments. Dozens. Then hundreds. The viewer count jumped past 500. Then 6. Then 7. Notifications echoed in classrooms, hallways, bathrooms. Students nudged each other, whispering as they watched the Blaze Jackets, Grantville High's golden boys, scramble around a soaked rooftop like rats in a flood. Riker didn't know any of it yet. He only knew his heartbeat was spiraling out of control. "Look at her," he shouted into the camera, trying to force panic into his voice. "She's attacking us. We're lucky to be alive." His voice cracked. He heard it. So did everyone watching. He swung the camera dramatically toward Milo, groaning on the ground, then toward Zane, clutching his elbow. "See? See? She did this." But the live stream captured more than Riker intended. It captured the overturned bucket, the puddle of water around it, the wetness dripping from Nadira's hair and collar, the corner of the rooftop railing where she'd been trapped, and the background audio, Zane swearing, Trent yelling, Milo threatening, was still echoing faintly, contradicting everything Riker was trying to paint. Then the comments started flooding the screen faster than the video could scroll. "Bro, we saw you push her." Riker, shut up. The camera caught everything. "Is she soaked? Did you dunk her head? Y'all jumped her. Don't lie now. This is messed up." Riker didn't see the comments, but Nadira did. From where she stood breathing hard, knees bent, feet planted, she watched the phone's screen light up. The words were small, overlapping, chaotic, but she understood the message. People were seeing the truth. Riker realized something was wrong only when Zane shouted, "Dude, why is my sister texting me? She says she's watching us." Riker's stomach dropped. "What?" he barked. "She says there are 700 people on your live." Riker's blood ran cold. He jerked the phone closer to his face. The number glowed at him. 743 watching, then 802, then 941. He froze. Truly froze. "No. No. No. This is a private stream. This is just for—" "It's not," Zane screamed. "It's on the school network. Someone had just shared it. Someone had saved it. Someone had broadcast it beyond their control." Down in the cafeteria, a group of students circled a phone. In the library, the librarian gasped and covered her mouth. In an English class, a teacher paused mid-sentence as half the room turned pale watching the scene unfold. Someone recorded the live stream, saved the file, and sent it directly, straight to the school's disciplinary officer. A senior named Callie whispered, "She's not the one attacking them. She's defending herself." A freshman whispered, I think they tried to drown her." In the math wing, teacher Mr. Hanley, who had already seen something from the courtyard, received the link from a student. His face hardened as he enlarged the video frame. Up on the roof, the wind howled with new ferocity, like the school itself was reacting. Riker's world was collapsing. This isn't right," Riker sputtered, switching to a fake cough, trying to look injured. "She's dangerous. She's out of control." But the comments were merciless. "No one believes you. We saw you grab her hair. This is assault on your part, not hers. Dude, stop lying before it gets worse." Too late. We sent the video to admin. Riker's hand shook so violently the camera view wobbled. He finally saw the red dot. Not recording. Live. His face drained of color. And no, this can't be happening. But it was. And it was irreversible. A single student comment hit harder than any punch. Riker Hale just ended his own career. Nadira exhaled slowly. She didn't smile. She didn't taunt. She simply stood tall, water dripping down her sleeves, a warrior in a storm that wasn't hers, but no longer controlled by the boys who started it. Riker's panic snapped, turning feral. "No!" he hissed. "No. I can fix this. I can fix this." He lifted the phone again. The camera caught his distorted expression, sweat mixing with fear. "She's still coming for us," he yelled, taking a step toward Nadira even though she hadn't moved an inch. "If I don't stop her now." But the viewers weren't buying it. "Stop lying. Dude, she's literally just standing there. We're screen recording everything. Bus driver just saw it. Teacher saw it. You're done." Nadira is defending herself. Period. Riker's world shattered fully then. The rooftop, the wind, the camera, the boys, his reputation, his lies, all spiraling beyond his control. And he knew deep in the pit of his stomach that once teachers saw this live stream in full, there would be no turning back. His father couldn't fix it. Booster clubs couldn't fix it. Principals couldn't hide it. He had destroyed himself. Publicly. Live. Unfiltered. He snapped. "If I end her, the video ends!" he screamed, voice cracking. Zane stared at him. "Riker, what are you doing?" Trent's throat tightened. "Man, stop. You're making it worse." But Riker was past listening, past thinking, past sanity. He lunged toward Nadira, with the phone clenched in one hand, his other hand outstretched like a claw. He wasn't trying to scare her now. He was trying to silence the live stream the only way his collapsing mind could grasp. By knocking her down. Out of frame, out of the story, out of the truth. His sneakers hammered the rooftop. His shadow stretched across the concrete. His breath came in ragged, desperate bursts. Nadira watched him come. Her stance lowered, her muscles tightened, her center aligned. She wasn't afraid, because now the entire school was watching, and the truth was finally on her side. For the first time since the attack began, Riker understood the full scale of what he had unleashed, not on Nadira, but on himself. Fueled by panic and humiliation, he charged blindly toward Nadira, triggering the darkest, most dangerous clash yet, as she prepared to defend herself against a blow that could end everything. The wind, at the far edge of the rooftop, howled like a living thing, clawing at Nadira's clothes and ripping through the giant advertising sign bolted to the wall. Metal creaked, bolts groaned. The drop below stretched down 4 stories cold, merciless concrete waiting like a silent predator. Nadira stood inches from the ledge, her breath steady, her stance lowered, her mind razor-focused. Riker charged, not running, barreling, not attacking, lunging. Every ounce of panic, humiliation, and collapsing pride turned into raw force behind his sprint. His sneakers screeched against the rooftop as he hurtled forward, arm outstretched, aiming to grab her shoulders and shove her off the edge. He wasn't thinking about consequences anymore. Not the live stream, not the comments, not the viewers climbing past 1,000, not the camera recording above. Just one thought flooded his mind. If he could get Nadira out of the frame, he could get his power back. Nadira's eyes never left him. She felt the shift in weight, the pattern of his steps, the reckless forward momentum. Years of judo training condensed into a single, perfect moment of clarity. She stepped backward, not fleeing, not fearing, just enough to control the angle. Her heel touched the rooftop's final line of safety. One more inch, and her foot would meet air instead of ground. Riker saw her trapped and roared, "You're done!" He lunged. He reached. His fingers brushed her shirt, and Nadira moved. The world narrowed into a sequence her body knew better than breath. She pivoted. Her foot slid diagonally, blade steady despite the slick ground. Her hands rose, not to block, but to guide. She caught Riker's sleeve and arm in a textbook grip, one every judo fighter drilled thousands of times. Her hips dropped low. Her weight shifted forward. Her balance became the anchor. She exhaled sharply, Tayotoshi, a perfect body drop. Her legs swept across Riker's path with surgical precision. Her hands pulled him forward while her torso blocked his momentum. His center of gravity shattered. His eyes widened as the rooftop tilted beneath him. What? Nadira, no! But gravity had already claimed him. His feet flew upward. His body flipped sideways. His arms windmilled wildly in the air, desperate for something to grab. Then thud. Riker's back slammed into the concrete with brutal force. The blow echoed like a gunshot across the rooftop, bouncing off metal, vents, and the billboard behind Nadira. Dust shook loose from the sign's frame. A bolt rattled. A pigeon scattered into the air. Nadira remained where she was, knees bent, hand extended, breath trembling from the execution of the throw. Her heart thundered, not with fear, but with the adrenaline of instinct meeting survival. Riker lay sprawled out, gasping, pain radiating through his spine. His phone slipped from his fingers, skittering across the rooftop in a desperate scramble of glass and metal. It spun, clinked once, twice, and slid to a stop near the puddle of spilled water. The screen remained lit. The red dot blinked steadily. Live. Riker saw it, and terror filled his eyes. "No," he whispered, voice cracking with realization. "No! No! No! Stop! Stop!" He crawled toward the phone, dragging his body across the ground like a man drowning. But it was too late. Down below, the live stream viewer count passed 1.7 thousand. Comments flew so fast the text blurred. She threw him because he ran at her. "Y'all see her footing. She's trained." I saved the video, sending to admin now. "He tried to shove her off the roof? This dude is done." A senior typed. "She warned them by not fighting. They kept coming. This is self-defense." A freshman replied. Riker Hale just got folded like laundry. Teachers saw the live stream. Coaches saw it. Counselors saw it. The vice principal saw it. And worst for Riker, the dean of discipline saw it. But Nadira didn't know any of that yet. She only knew the rooftop had gone eerily quiet, except for Riker's desperate breaths. The wind screamed behind her, trying to shove her off balance. She stepped away from the ledge, grounding herself, refusing to let the aftermath swallow her. Her chest rose and fell in sharp, controlled waves. Her palms trembled with leftover adrenaline. Her hair whipped wildly as the billboard frame groaned under the wind, and she locked eyes with Riker. For the first time, he looked small. Not like a leader, not like a threat, not like the school's untouchable bully, just a boy who had finally realized the consequences of his actions. He reached again for the phone, but another notification popped up so bright he flinched. Livestream recording saved to school cloud. His entire face collapsed. No, this isn't happening. But it was, and Nadira watched him silently, her breath evening out, her stance steady. She wasn't celebrating. She wasn't taunting him. She wasn't reveling in victory. She was standing in the aftermath of survival, the raw moment when a person realizes they had no choice but to fight for their life. Her shoulders lifted with one final inhale. Then she straightened to her full height. Her eyes sharpened into a look of unshakable resolve. The fight wasn't over, but she was no longer the hunted one, and the live stream caught every second. Her chest rose sharply as she exhaled, grounding herself again. The decision was sealed inside her gaze, hard, unwavering, ready for whatever came next. Nadira rose from the edge with a fierce breath, staring down at Riker as the live stream exposed his downfall to the entire school. Yet the rooftop battle was far from finished. From the stairwell door, heavy footsteps thundered upward, security rushing toward the chaos, drawn by the noise, the live stream, and the outbreak of alarm spreading through the school. The rooftop door slammed open so violently that the metal frame rattled, the sound cutting through the wind like a warning shot. The heavy footsteps that followed were not hesitant, not confused, they were urgent, pounding up the last steps with the authority of someone who had heard enough chaos to know something was deeply wrong. A security officer burst through the doorway. Officer Ramirez, broad-shouldered, mid-40s, a veteran of school crises, stepped onto the roof with one hand near his radio, the other raised cautiously as he scanned the scene before him. and what he saw made him freeze. 4 boys, Grantville High's pride, its cherished athletes were scattered across the concrete like broken chess pieces. Milo lay flat on his back, clutching his ribs and groaning. Zane sat against a vent, elbow bent at an unnatural angle, breathing in short, terrified bursts. Trent knelt on one knee, still dizzy from the fall, sweat mixing with dust on his forehead. And Riker Grantville's golden boy was dragging himself toward a glowing phone, his face twisted in desperation. Water from the overturned bucket pooled across the rooftop, catching sunlight in shimmering streaks. A damp trail led from the bucket to the railing, clear evidence of violence, clearer than any stage story could hide. And in the center of it all stood Nadira, breathing hard, clothes drenched, hair dripping, hands slightly shaking, but spine straight, eyes sharp, unbroken. Officer Ramirez's mouth tightened. What happened here? Before Nadira could answer, the blaze jackets snapped into action, not physically, but verbally. They switched masks in an instant. Zane pointed a trembling finger at her, voice cracking with outrage he didn't truly feel. She attacked us, sir. She went crazy. Trent nodded aggressively, as if the more he moved, the more believable the lie became. She threw us around. We were defending ourselves. Milo groaned loudly for dramatic effect. She jumped us. Out of nowhere, Officer Ramirez frowned. The excuses came too quickly, too rehearsed, too in sync. But Riker was the one who stole the show. He spun around, face pale but voice trembling with righteous fury. Officer, you need to restrain her. She's dangerous. She ambushed us. She tried to throw me off the roof. Nadira's jaw tightened, but she said nothing. Her silence alone made Riker flinch. Officer Ramirez looked between the girl and the boys. Nadira wasn't advancing. She wasn't shouting. She wasn't even moving. She simply stood in her stance, steady, composed, as if she had survived something far worse than their lies. But the officer couldn't act on instincts alone. He needed evidence, a story, a truth. Riker, seeing the hesitation, pushed harder. You have to believe us, he shouted, scrambling to his feet. She's crazy. Sir, a voice called from behind. Everyone turned. A student, breathless from sprinting up several flights of stairs, appeared at the doorway, holding his phone out like a lifeline. A freshman. Small, nervous, but brave enough to run straight into danger because he knew the truth mattered. Sir, he repeated, stepping forward. You need to see this. Riker's blood drained from his face. No. Don't. But it was too late. The boy tapped the screen. The rooftop exploded with sound, not their present voices, but the recorded ones from minutes earlier. Riker shouting, "Drown that attitude out of her." Zane laughing, "Do it again! More!" Trent howling, "Look at her! Look at her!" Then the first slam. The second. The splash of water. Nadira choking. The boys screaming with excitement as they pinned her down. And finally, Riker's panicked lies, caught side by side with damning visuals the live stream had captured in perfect clarity. Officer Ramirez's face transformed as he watched. Shock, anger, disgust, recognition. The blaze jacket's excuses collapsed like rotten scaffolding. Sir, that's edited," Riker sputtered. "He's trying to frame us." But the live stream wasn't just on one screen. Behind the freshman, 3 more students emerged, 2 girls and another boy holding their phones up, all showing the exact same footage from different screens, different recordings, different timestamps. Live comments still streamed across the videos. "You can't lie your way out of this. We saw everything. Admin has the video. Riker Hale is finished." Riker staggered backward, the truth hitting him harder than Nadira's throw. His knees buckled as he whispered, "No, this isn't possible." Officer Ramirez stepped forward, voice low and cold. "Hands where I can see them." Zane's mouth fell open. "Wait, us? Why? Now?" the officer barked. Trent raised his hands slowly. Milo obeyed reluctantly. Zane trembled, finally understanding the gravity. But Riker shook his head like a drowning man, refusing his last chance at rescue. No! No! You don't understand! She attacked us. The officer cut him off. I just watched 4 minutes of footage showing you assaulting a student, endangering her life, and attempting to deceive the entire school. He glared down at the concrete bucket, the dripping water, the bruised girl standing strong. And the live stream doesn't lie. Riker's facade cracked. For the first time, his eyes filled with something raw. Not anger, not ego. Fear. Pure, unmistakable fear. His reputation, his privilege, his untouchable status gone in a single recorded moment. Nadira exhaled, her breath shaking slightly as adrenaline faded from her muscles. But her eyes stayed locked on Riker, watching the realization consume him. Officer Ramirez turned to Nadira, softening his voice. You're safe now. Stay where you are and don't move. I need to secure them first. She nodded once. Silent, controlled, stronger than she had ever felt, Riker sagged to the ground as the officer approached, his world collapsing piece by piece. His teammates stared at him, realizing the truth. It wasn't Nadira who destroyed him. It was his own cruelty, his own arrogance, his own live stream. As Officer Ramirez took the phone from Riker's trembling hand, the boy finally saw the viewer count over 2,000 watching, and the color drained completely from his face. With evidence undeniable and panic spreading fast, the school administration moved instantly, issuing a command to detain the entire Blaze Jackets for immediate investigation. The afternoon sun had begun to fade into the yellow tint of early evening when Nadira was escorted into the disciplinary office. The air inside the room felt heavy, thick with the weight of consequences that had not yet been spoken aloud. A long wooden table divided the room. Chairs lined both sides. Files sat stacked in neat piles, as if waiting for their verdicts. On one side sat Nadira, quiet, composed, her hair still damp from the rooftop assault. On the other side, Riker, Zane, Trent, Milo. 4 boys who, hours earlier, believed themselves invincible. Now each sat hunched forward, elbows on their knees, hands fidgeting under the table. None of them spoke. None of them dared to lift their eyes. At the center of the table stood Dean Marlowe, the disciplinarian, a tall, stern man known for his even voice and zero tolerance for dishonesty. Beside him was Officer Ramirez, arms folded, jaw locked tight, and nearest the window sat Mr. Halden, the social studies teacher, one of the few faculty members students actually respected. His face, usually calm, now looked unsettled. Dean Marlowe cleared his throat. "We have reviewed the live stream footage," he began, his voice slow and deliberate. "It raises significant concerns. But during our preliminary examination, something else surfaced." The boys stiffened. Nadira didn't move. Marlowe tapped a key on his laptop. A video window blinked open. A timestamp appeared, 2:17 p.m. Maintenance, roof camera #4. Auto-reactivate after reset. Zane's lips parted in shock. Trent's shoulders tensed. Riker's throat bobbed as he swallowed hard. The screen flickered into motion. A clear, wide-angle view of the rooftop appeared. No shaking camera, no shaky framing, no intentional angles or deceptive positioning, just the cold, mechanical truth of a security lens. And from the first second, it captured everything. Nadira walking onto the roof, the Blaze Jackets closing in, Riker pulling her hair, her head plunging into the water, the screams, the splashes, the laughter, the second plunge, the first reversal, Milo's failed attack, Zane slamming into the vent, Riker charging, the Tayotoshi throw. Every second, every gesture, every assault, unfiltered, unedited, undeniable. Dean Marlowe let the footage play in absolute silence. Riker shifted in his seat, fingers digging into the sides of his chair. Zane held his breath. Trent stared at the floor. Milo wiped sweat from his brow with a trembling hand. When the assault portion ended, Marlowe pressed pause. No one spoke. Even the HVAC vent in the corner seemed to mute itself, as if the room needed pure silence to absorb the truth. Finally, Mr. Halden broke it. "Dean Marlowe," he said quietly, leaning forward. I recognize this pattern." His voice trembled not with fear, but with long-held frustration resurfacing. Marlowe turned to him. "Explain." Halden took a breath. 5 years ago, long before Nadira came to Grantville, there was an incident involving 3 senior boys and a freshman, a violent incident. Riker's eyes darted upward in sudden panic. Halden continued. "They cornered him on the old gym roof, used a mop bucket, threatened him. He ended up with a concussion. The student reported the attack, but the footage disappeared, and the boys got off with a warning." Nadira's pulse quickened. The Blaze jackets stiffened. Dean Marlowe's gaze sharpened. "And," Halden added, "2 of those seniors were brothers of current Blaze Jackets members." Riker exhaled sharply through his nose. "That doesn't prove—" "It proves a pattern," Halden snapped, more harshly than anyone had ever heard from him. "A pattern of violence, a pattern of targeting weaker students, a pattern of covering it up." Officer Ramirez stepped in. "It proves motive. It proves opportunity. And it proves this wasn't a spontaneous fight, it was a learned behavior." Zane shook his head violently. "We weren't copying anything. This just happened." Halden's gaze cut through him like a blade. "Did it? Or did someone teach you that you could get away with hurting people?" Riker slammed his hand on the table. "Shut up! You don't know anything." "In fact," Marlowe said, calm but icy, "we know far more than you think." He clicked a second tab, pulling up another file, another camera angle, another timestamp. This one from the stairwell camera, a side view capturing the boys conspiring before Nadira arrived. Zane mimicked shoving someone's head into a bucket. Trent laughed. Riker nodded with chilling confidence. Nadira watched silently, stomach twisting but not with fear, with clarity. They had planned to humiliate someone. It just happened to be her. Marlowe clicked pause again. The room hummed with quiet horror. Riker's shoulders sagged. His breathing grew shallow, erratic. He finally understood what the live stream alone could not do, but what the second video absolutely did. It eliminated every angle of defense, every lie, every excuse, every fabricated story. "Dean, please," Riker choked out, voice breaking. We can talk about this. My dad is— This is not about your father." Marlowe snapped for the first time. "This is about student safety. This is about a girl who nearly drowned under your hands." Riker's mouth opened, closed. He had no words left. Halden's voice softened, not toward the boys, but toward Nadira. "You didn't deserve any of this," he said. "And now, finally, the truth is out." Nadira inhaled a shaky, painful breath she didn't realize she'd been holding. Her throat tightened, not in fear, but in release. A pressure she had endured for hours, days, maybe her whole life finally shifted. Marlowe straightened his posture. "This recording," he said, tapping the second video, "combined with the live stream, is sufficient for immediate disciplinary action. The Blaze Jackets are suspended effective immediately pending formal board review." Zane gasped. Trent slumped back in his chair. Milo rubbed his face, whispering, "Oh my God," under his breath. And Riker closed his eyes. Not in denial, not in rage, but in defeat. He knew this wasn't temporary. This wasn't a slap on the wrist. This was destruction. Not done to him, done by him. The door to the office opened suddenly. The assistant principal leaned in. "Dean Marlowe, the superintendent wants an emergency meeting." "Immediately," Marlowe nodded. "Tell them we're on our way." He closed the laptop with a click that echoed like a gavel. As the staff filed out and preparations began for the emergency meeting, one truth settled over the room like a storm cloud. What happened on that rooftop was only the beginning of a much larger secret that was finally about to detonate. With the administration ordering a full emergency conference, the buried scandal surrounding the Blaze Jackets was about to be dragged into the light, and nothing would ever be the same again. The emergency conference room had never felt smaller. Normally, it hosted parent-teacher meetings, curriculum planning, or polite administrative discussions. But tonight, the atmosphere was suffocating heavy with dread, the kind that sits at the back of the throat and refuses to move. A long oval table dominated the center. Papers were scattered everywhere, printouts of live-stream stills, screenshots of comments, disciplinary files, and the damning maintenance camera footage. At one end sat the administrative core of Grantville High, Principal Rowan, Dean Marlowe, Vice Principal Hart, two counselors, Officer Ramirez, and Mr. Halden, whose jaw was clenched so tight it trembled. At the opposite side sat Nadira, quiet, alert, her presence steady despite the chaos swirling around her. Her hands rested neatly in her lap, but the tension in her shoulders revealed how much energy she was holding together. Next to her sat a woman and man in their mid-40s, parents of a former student. They had been called in urgently, their faces pale with a mixture of anger, grief, and bitter recognition. The blaze jackets were not present. They had been removed from the building, isolated under security supervision. The meeting began. Principal Rowan adjusted his glasses with a shaky hand. "We've all reviewed the footage. We've all seen the live stream. There is no dispute regarding what occurred on the rooftop." Silence filled the room. Not relief, not comfort, but a collective inhalation before impact. Dean Marlowe spoke next, his voice low and deliberate. "The severity of this incident forces us to confront something we avoided for too long." He clicked his remote. The screen behind him lit up. A yearbook photo appeared of a boy with soft eyes and a quiet smile. Caleb Morris. Nadira looked up. She didn't know the name, but the room reacted as if a ghost had appeared. Halden swallowed hard. Caleb was a freshman when the first incident occurred. The parents next to Nadira stiffened. The mother reached for her husband's hand, gripping it so tightly her knuckles whitened. Vice Principal Hart exhaled shakily. "It happened 2 years ago. A serious bullying event. Caleb was injured badly." Officer Ramirez stepped forward. "Concussion, bruised ribs, a spinal sprain, and," Halden added quietly, "psychological trauma that lasted far longer than the physical injuries." Nadira stared at the photo. She felt the air around her tighten. This wasn't just history, it was a mirror. "Her mirror," Principal Rowan continued. "According to Caleb's initial report, he was cornered on the old gym roof, pushed near the edge. His head was shoved into a mop bucket. He sustained injuries trying to escape." Nadira froze. A mop bucket, a rooftop, a fall, a near-drowning humiliation. The exact same pattern. "But," Rowan said, his voice darkening, "the official report was later altered. It stated the incident was an accident. Horseplay gone wrong." Halden's eyes burned with restrained fury. "We were told to stand down, told not to pursue it." The father of Caleb Morris leaned forward, voice trembling with controlled rage. "We were pressured, manipulated. We tried to fight it, but the administration shut every door in our faces." The mother's eyes glistened with tears. "We were told it would hurt the school's athletic partnerships if we pursued charges." Nadira felt sick. This wasn't an isolated incident. This was a legacy. Principal Rowan's voice grew quieter. The same pattern repeated today. The same behavior. The same group dynamic. The same attempt to silence the truth. The father nodded grimly. "Because they never faced consequences the first time." Halden clenched his fists. "They were taught that they could get away with anything. And they nearly killed another student today because of it," Dean Marlowe said. The truth hit Nadira hard, colder than any water Riker forced her into. She wasn't the first. She was simply the one who refused to drown quietly. Rowan tapped his remote again. Another file appeared, an audio recording. A crackle, then a voice. Zane's brother, older, arrogant, recorded during the investigation 2 years earlier. "You don't want trouble, just let it go. Caleb fell. End of story. If he talks, we'll make him regret it." Nadira's breath caught. The room collectively stiffened. "Another recording," Rowan said. A second audio file, Trent's brother, laughing to a teammate. "Coach said he'll handle it. We're untouchable." That freshman should be happy we didn't throw him off the roof for real." The mother clapped a hand over her mouth, stifling a sob. Mr. Halden stood abruptly, pacing once, twice, then stopping with his palms pressed against the table. "That's what we covered up," he said. "A culture of violence, a culture of protection, and now it's grown into this." His gaze swept the room, stopping on Nadira, into what almost happened to her. Nadira didn't flinch. She lifted her chin slightly steady, grounded, unwilling to shrink beneath the truth. Marlowe's voice cut through the tension. "The district superintendent has been informed. The evidence from both incidents is now being re-evaluated. We cannot hide what we allowed to happen anymore." The father of Caleb Morris leaned forward, retrieving a folder from his bag. He placed it on the table with a heavy thud. "This," he said, "is everything we collected before the school shut us down. Photos, medical records, threatening messages, witness accounts. We kept it all." Rowan's eyes widened. Marlowe inhaled sharply. Halden stared at the folder like it was radioactive. Officer Ramirez opened it. Inside were photographs of Caleb's bruises, copies of emails where staff were pressured to downplay events, written statements from students who were too afraid to testify at the time, and text messages from Blaze Jacket's alumni threatening Caleb for running his mouth. Nadira felt tears prick at the corners of her eyes, not for herself, but for the boy in the photo. A boy who had no live stream, no backup, no camera reactivation, no witness brave enough to run for help, only silence, broken now, for good. Halden's voice lowered to a whisper. "This school failed him." Marlowe nodded slowly, "and nearly failed her." Nadira breathed out, steady but heavy. She wasn't alone. She wasn't the first, but she would help ensure she was the last. Principal Rowan lifted his head, resolve hardening in his eyes. "We will not fail again." He turned toward the group. "This case, along with all evidence related to the former incident, is being forwarded to the district tonight. This goes beyond our authority now." Nadira exhaled a deep, trembling release. The cover-up was over. The truth was out, and Grantville High's foundation was beginning to fracture. As the Morris family stepped into the hallway, whispers spread like wildfire, the kind that shakes institutions at their core. The reputation of Grantville High trembled under the weight of long-buried sins finally unearthed, and with the files delivered to the district office, the investigation now escalated beyond the school's walls into the hands of the superintendent and the school board, where even bigger consequences waited. Morning sunlight filtered through the tall glass windows of the district office, illuminating polished floors and walls lined with framed mission statements about equity, safety, and student welfare, words that suddenly felt painfully ironic. A cold professionalism hung in the air, formal and unyielding, the kind that signaled this was no ordinary school meeting. This was where decisions could end careers, shut down programs, or change lives forever. Inside a conference room sat a long table, sleek, modern, and intimidatingly clean. At one end sat the district investigator, Miss Alexandra Pierce. Known for her calm precision and zero tolerance for misinformation, she had a reputation for uncovering truth even when institutions tried to bury it. Today, her expression was unreadable. Across from her sat Nadira, back straight, hands folded gently, her breathing measured. She looked smaller than the room, but stronger than anyone inside it. Next to her was a district-appointed advocate, quietly reviewing notes. At the opposite side of the table sat the Blaze Jackets with their parents and a lawyer from a local firm known for representing athletes facing disciplinary action. Riker looked hollow. Zane jittered his leg non-stop. Trent wiped sweat from his temple. Milo stared down at the table, eyes bloodshot. Officer Ramirez stood by the door, arms crossed. Dean Marlowe and Principal Rowan sat quietly along the wall, waiting to be called. Miss Pierce opened a folder, clicking her pen twice. "Good morning. We are here to review the events from yesterday's Rooftop incident, as well as evidence related to a previously concealed 2023 case. All individuals will speak one at a time. There will be no interruptions. Is that clear?" The room murmured, "Yes." Pierce nodded sharply. "Let's begin with evidence. We require everything. Rooftop footage, live stream files, student recordings, maintenance camera logs, written statements, medical notes, all of it. Dean Marlowe stood, placing a thick stack of documents on the table. You'll find full copies here, including the rediscovered maintenance video. Pierce flipped through the pages, her eyes narrowing. This is extensive and damning. She turned to the boys. Riker Hale, Zane Whitlock, Trent Duval, Milo Ashford. You will now give your statements. Riker's lawyer leaned forward, whispering urgently. Riker tried to straighten his posture but failed. His voice shook. She attacked us. We were defending ourselves. Nadira, she's stronger than she looks. We panicked. It wasn't what it. Pierce raised a hand. We have footage of you grabbing her, forcing her head into water, coordinating an assault, and charging her near a ledge. Do not insult my intelligence. Riker's mouth snapped shut. Zane tried next, words spilling out too fast. It wasn't supposed to be like that, Riker told us, he said. Look, it just happened. Trent jumped in immediately. No, Zane's lying. He's the one who started it. Shut up, Trent. You hit her with the bucket. At least I didn't try to shove her off the enough, Pierce commanded. Silence dropped like a blade. The boys slumped back, unraveling under pressure. Miss. Pierce scribbled notes with exacting strokes, documenting every contradiction. Then she turned to Nadira. Miss Cole, tell us everything. Nadira inhaled deeply, not nervously, purposefully. She looked Pierce in the eyes. I was walking across the roof to get to the parking lot. They stopped me. They insulted me. Riker grabbed me. He forced my head into the bucket. Her hand trembled slightly, but her voice remained steady. I couldn't breathe. When he tried again, I reacted. I didn't plan to fight. I only wanted to survive. The room didn't breathe. Nadira continued, voice low but firm. Everything else was self-defense. Pierce watched her carefully, not with doubt, but with an analytical precision that felt almost surgical. Then she asked, Miss Cole, some of your movements in the rooftop footage were practiced, very practiced. Where did you learn them? Nadira blinked, a question she did not expect. Her advocate leaned in. You can answer truthfully. Nadira hesitated only a moment. I trained in Judo since I was 9, she said quietly. I competed nationally. I was the U-16 champion 2 years ago. The room reacted like she had dropped a live wire onto the table. Riker's head jerked up. Zane's mouth fell open. Trent whispered, No way. Milo stared as if he'd seen a ghost, but it was Miss Pierce's reaction that mattered. Her pen stopped mid-note. You were a national champion? Yes, ma'am. Pierce glanced down at the school's file on Nadira. No mansion, no awards, no athletic records. Just a quiet transfer student with high grades. Why? Pierce asked slowly. Is none of this in your file? Nadira looked down. My mother didn't want me pressured to join a team again. I stopped competing when my father got sick. I asked that my file only include academic information. Pierce nodded once, but the weight of that revelation reshaped everything. Because Nadira hadn't simply defended herself. She had done so with the restraint of someone trained to control, redirect, and neutralize without inflicting permanent harm. This wasn't a fight. This was survival executed with discipline. Pierce leaned back, folding her arms. The footage makes much more sense now. Your movements were controlled, not aggressive. Intentional, not reckless. You weren't lashing out. You were preventing further harm. The lawyer tried to intervene. Miss Pierce, with all due respect, this young woman is trained in lethal. Judo is not lethal, Pierce snapped. It is defensive, and she used it defensively. The lawyer shrank in his seat. Riker looked like he might faint. Pierce continued. This changes the narrative completely. The boys were not overpowered by a random student. They were overpowered because they chose to attack someone who refused to be victimized. Nadira swallowed hard, gratitude and exhaustion pooling behind her stern composure. Pierce closed the folder. Based on the evidence, the boys' shifting testimonies, and Miss Cole's clear account, this case is escalating beyond school authority. She tapped her pen against the table, twice firm, decisive. I am officially requesting school resource officers and district police involvement. The boys stiffened, horror spreading from one to the next like a virus. Zane whispered, "Police?" Milo's jaw shook. "We're getting arrested? Not necessarily today," Pierce replied coldly. "But this is now a criminal matter. Assault, harassment, conspiracy, endangerment, and potentially a hate crime You will be questioned again with legal oversight." Riker's lawyer slammed his folder shut. "This is outrageous." "No," Pierce said with finality. "What's outrageous is 4 boys nearly causing the death of a student and attempting to lie about it in front of thousands of viewers." The lawyer had no answer. Nadira lowered her head briefly, allowing herself a single breath of relief but not victory. "Not yet." Pierce stood. "This meeting is adjourned." End quote. As Pierce exited the room to contact district law enforcement, one truth hung in the air. Nadira Cole was no longer just the girl who survived the rooftop attack. She was now the key witness in a criminal case that could dismantle the school's athletic empire. Within the hour, school district police began assembling documents and preparing officers because Grantville High was about to face consequences far beyond suspension. By the time the first bell was still 20 minutes away, Grantville High's campus was already buzzing like a hornet's nest struck by a bat. Students clustered in tight circles across the courtyard, whispering, gasping, passing phones back and forth as if they were trading contraband. Word had spread. Not slowly, not quietly, but like wildfire, fast, bright, unstoppable. The district office had issued its statement at 7:04 a.m. Effective immediately, Riker Hale, Zane Whitlock, Trent Duvall, and Milo Ashford are suspended pending criminal investigation. One sentence. 4 names. An earthquake. Posters of the Blaze Jackets' undefeated season had been taped over with sticky notes reading, "Accountability." Another read, "No more cover-ups." Someone even scribbled, "Justice for Nadira" in marker, across a bench. But not everyone agreed on what justice looked like. Near the main staircase, 2 groups had already formed, one furious, one proud. "Good," a girl snapped, tossing her hair. "They almost killed her," a boy in a football hoodie shot back. "They didn't almost kill anyone, this is overblown. They carried our team. We're screwed for regionals now." Another girl cut in sharply. "So your playoffs matter more than a girl being drowned?" The boy's smirk faltered. "That's not what I—" "Oh, please," someone else mocked. "You'd defend Riker if he burned the school down." The debate escalated so fast, half the student body drifted closer. Phones lifted. Recordings started. Someone went live on Instagram. Someone else on TikTok. Everywhere Nadira walked, eyes followed. Some soft, some sharp, some full of curiosity, admiration, or resentment. She stepped onto the courtyard with her backpack snug against her shoulder. A faint bruise along her temple peeked out beneath her hair. She kept her breath steady, chin forward, even though walking into that firestorm felt like stepping on stage in front of a stadium. Students parted instinctively, clearing a path as if a silent spotlight followed her. A few clapped, a few murmured, "She's so strong." Others muttered, "That's the girl who took down the Jackets." But some glared most, wearing varsity jackets of their own. "She ruined everything," one boy muttered under his breath. Nadira heard him. She didn't react. She'd already survived a rooftop. Whispers couldn't hurt her more than that. Across the courtyard, the Blaze Jackets appeared escorted by security. Backpacks slung low, eyes hollow. Their suspension meant they were only on campus briefly to collect materials before being removed. The moment they appeared, the courtyard exploded again. Someone shouted, "Hope the investigation goes great, Riker," dripping sarcasm. Another yelled, "Try drowning someone now." A third, "Leave Nadira alone." But the opposite side fired back. "Free the Jackets. This school is pathetic. Riker didn't deserve this." The arguments collided mid-air, shouts overlapping, accusations bouncing like flung stones. Then someone lifted their phone and shouted, "We're live again!" Instantly, dozens of students surrounding Nadira turned toward the lens. A circle formed half protective, half intrusive. The live stream started flooding with viewers. "Is that Nadira? She looks calm AF. Blaze jackets walking behind her, OMG. Say something, Nadira. Show her face. Show his face." The camera panned to Riker. He froze. The red recording dot reflected off his eyes like a warning. He tried to look defiant, but under the spotlight of his own undoing, his confidence had shattered. His posture sagged, his jaw clenched in humiliation. Then the phone swung back to Nadira. But Nadira didn't flinch, didn't shield her face, didn't hide. She simply stood tall, letting the world look if it wanted to. Her silence became an image. Her bruise became a symbol. Her steady breathing became a message. I survived. I'm not afraid of being seen. In that instant, the entire courtyard paused. A girl in the front whispered, "She's strong." Another said, "She didn't choose any of this. But look at her." Someone typed into the live stream, "We're watching a survivor, not a victim." Riker's eyes darted to the comments, flushed with shame. A chant started quietly at first, then louder, "Nadira, Nadira," but she lifted one hand in a gentle motion, signaling for quiet. And surprisingly, miraculously, the crowd obeyed. She spoke just 2 words, "Enough noise." It wasn't shouted. It wasn't fierce. It wasn't angry. But it silenced a courtyard of hundreds. Her voice carried a steady authority that none expected. The live stream comments exploded. "She's powerful." "Aye, bro, she shut down a whole crowd." "Grantville needed someone like her." Riker who? "She's the main character now." And then, from the parking lot entrance, a cluster of adults approached with purposeful steps. They're dressed in business attire, designer coats, and expressions sharp enough to cut glass. Parents, specifically the parents of the Blaze jackets, and they looked furious. As their eyes locked onto Nadira, and the students' live stream filmed it all, Grantville High's fragile public image trembled, because the confrontation brewing next would ignite an even bigger firestorm. With angry parents storming the courtyard and demanding answers, the administration would be forced into the open where the truth and the lies would collide in front of everyone. The air in the principal's conference room felt thick, almost metallic, as if tension itself had weight. The blinds were half closed, filtering the late morning sun into slanted, sharp beams that cut across the polished table where a storm was already brewing. Parents of the Blaze jackets filled the space with loud voices, expensive perfumes, and the absolute certainty that they held power here. Their expressions varied, furious, offended, indignant, but all shared the same conviction. Their sons were victims, not aggressors, not perpetrators, not participants in a near-fatal attack. Victims. Principal Rowan sat at the head of the table, posture stiff. Dean Marlowe stood beside him, arms crossed. Counselor Denise lingered near the file cabinets, prepared for emotional fallout. Nadira sat on the far side, quiet, composed, her back straight, her presence almost too calm for the chaos surrounding her. Riker's mother was the first to slam her hand against the table. "This is outrageous," she snapped. "You cannot suspend 4 boys, 4 athletes over a misunderstanding. Boys get rough. Boys shove each other. They joke around. This is normal teenage behavior." Trent's father jumped in immediately. "Exactly. You're going to destroy their futures over what? A prank gone wrong?" Dean Marlowe spoke before Rowan could. "What happened was not a prank. It was premeditated assault." Milo's mother scoffed. "Oh, please. You administrators take everything so seriously. My son said the girl overreacted and escalated things." Zane's father nodded aggressively. "This entire school has blown everything out of proportion. That live stream was completely misleading." Rowan's eyes narrowed. "You mean the live stream your sons initiated?" The room fell briefly silent. A silence that lasted just long enough to sting. Trent's father waved a dismissive hand. Kids do things impulsively. Why is everyone acting like this is criminal? Officer Ramirez stepped forward from the wall, voice firm. Because it is. 4 parents turned toward him with matching scowls, as if the law itself had become an inconvenience. Zane's mother spoke next, her earrings jangling with each sharp movement of her head. We are demanding that the school drop disciplinary charges. This will ruin their scholarships, their recruitment offers, their athletic branding. You should be protecting them, not tearing them down. Principal Rowan exhaled slowly. We are protecting a student, he said quietly. Nadira Cole nearly suffered serious harm because of your son's actions. Riker's mother pointed at Nadira sharp, accusing. She fought back. She's the one who threw them around like rag dolls. Isn't that suspicious? Isn't that excessive force? Marlowe's jaw clenched. It was self-defense. We don't know that, she snapped. Yes, Marlowe answered. We do. The maintenance footage, the live stream, the stairwell video. 3 independent angles. Still, denial persisted like a stain no cleaner could remove. That footage only shows a moment, Trent's father protested. You're taking everything out of context. And what context? Rowan asked. Justifies shoving someone's head into a bucket of water. No one answered. The parents exchanged looks frantic, cornered, searching for an angle that no longer existed. Finally, Riker's mother pivoted in desperation. Look at her, she exclaimed, gesturing wildly at Nadira. She's strong, trained, probably dangerous. You saw how she handled them. How do you know she didn't provoke? Nadira stood, not abruptly, not dramatically, just stood. The subtle act shifted the entire room. Conversation died mid-sentence. Even the ticking wall clock felt like it held its breath. Her voice, when she spoke, was not loud, not emotional, but unbearably clear. If I had been a little weaker that day, Nadira said, I might have died. The room froze. The words fell like iron. No theatrics. No embellishment. Just truth. Raw, unfiltered truth. Her gaze didn't waver, didn't shake, didn't plead. She wasn't seeking sympathy. She wasn't trying to win. She was stating a fact so simple, so irrefutable. The walls themselves seemed to withdraw. No parent dared speak, not even the loudest ones. Riker looked down at his shoes. Zane swallowed hard. Milo blinked rapidly, tears threatening. Trent's shoulders sank. And still the adults who came to defend them could no longer form arguments sharp enough to cut through Nadira's single sentence. Principal Rowan let the silence stretch long, deliberate, unforgiving. Then he spoke. This is not a negotiation. This is not a misunderstanding. This is not a prank. He looked directly at each parent. Your son's actions nearly resulted in catastrophic harm. The school has an obligation to respond with absolute seriousness. Dean Marlowe added, and the district is now involved. The investigation has moved beyond our authority. Attempts to interfere or downplay events will not be tolerated. Riker's father tried one last angle. Surely the school doesn't intend to publicize. Counselor Denise cut in. The district intends to inform the entire school community. Transparency is required. Nadira lowered herself back into her seat, not triumphant, but steady, unshakable, untouchable. The parents' faces twisted with a mix of outrage and resignation. Their power, so absolute hours ago, was slipping like sand through clenched fists. Principal Rowan folded his hands. This meeting is concluded. The official statement will be sent to the entire district this afternoon. For a moment, no one moved because Nadira's 12 quiet words still echoed, reshaping every assumption in the room. As the statement prepared for release, the situation escalated even further, forcing the entire school district to confront the truth in front of thousands. The auditorium of Grantville Unified School District had never hosted an event like this. Rows of folding chairs filled the space, occupied by parents, teachers, community members, and a number of local student reporters carrying microphones and school-branded cameras. A low, tense murmur rippled through the crowd like static. At the front stood a long table draped in a navy cloth bearing the district seal. Behind it sat Superintendent Avery Glass. Dean Marlowe, Principal Rowan, the communications director, and to one side quiet and composed Nadira Cole. She wore a simple blazer over her school uniform. Nothing flashy, nothing meant to draw attention. But every eye in the room found her anyway. The live stream camera at the back of the hall blinked red. Thousands of students across the district were watching. Superintendent Glass adjusted the microphone, her voice steady and grave. "Thank you all for attending on such short notice. We are here to address a serious incident that occurred on the rooftop of Grantville High yesterday afternoon." The room hushed, the kind of silence that feels like everyone is holding the same breath. Glass continued, after reviewing multiple sources of evidence, including maintenance footage, student live streams, staff statements, and district investigative reports, we have reached an official conclusion. She lifted a sheet of paper but didn't need to look at it. 4 students, members of the Blaze Jackets Athletic Club, engaged in premeditated violent assault against a fellow student, Miss Nadira Cole. Evidence further indicates elements of racially motivated harassment, escalating into a life-threatening situation. Gasps scattered through the room like small explosions. Riker's mother, seated near the back, stiffened sharply, her hand clutching the arm of her chair. Several parents murmured, some in outrage, some in utter disbelief. Glass continued, unwavering. This district does not tolerate violence. It does not tolerate discrimination, and it will not tolerate lies or cover-ups. Her words fell heavy, deliberate, echoing off the auditorium walls. Furthermore, she said, after consultation with martial arts experts and reviewing the footage in detail, we confirm that Miss Cole's actions, every movement, every defensive maneuver were consistent with legal self-defense and executed with remarkable restraint. All eyes slid toward Nadira. She did not shrink. She did not smile. She simply breathed steady, grounded. Glass nodded respectfully to her before continuing. As a result, Miss Cole will face no disciplinary action. She acted to preserve her own life under extreme threat. Some parents clapped quietly. Others nodded in solemn approval. A few students in the back whispered with awe. Meanwhile, the superintendent said, the Blaze Jackets involved remain suspended pending criminal review. Their athletic privileges within this district are revoked indefinitely. All earlier incidents tied to this pattern of violence will be reopened. A collective gasp swept the room because everyone knew what that implied. The past was no longer buried. Glass shifted her posture, her tone softening slightly. I would now like to acknowledge something else, something powerful. She turned toward Nadira. Miss Cole, your strength under pressure was extraordinary. Many students in your situation might not have survived. Your courage in coming forward has helped this district confront a deeply rooted problem. The applause this time was louder, more united. Nadira bowed her head slightly, not for show, but with quiet dignity. Before Superintendent Glass could continue, a voice rose from the middle of the room. It was Mr. Halden. He stood slowly, holding the microphone passed to him by a student reporter. I'd like to say something, he said. Not as a member of the faculty, but as a father, and as someone who failed to stop something like this years ago. The room shifted, hanging on his every word. Halden faced Nadira directly. Miss Cole, watching what you did, not just defending yourself, but defending the truth, was humbling. You showed strength we should have protected, not forced to prove. Nadira blinked, a trace of emotion flashing behind her calm expression. Halden inhaled. And that's why I want to ask you something publicly. He turned to the audience as well. I want to start a self-defense program for the young women at this school. Something real, something empowering, something that gives them the skills this institution failed to provide you. He paused, hopeful, nervous, genuine. And I would be honored, he said softly, if you would help me lead it. A ripple of shock and then admiration moved through the hall. Students whispered, parents nodded, reporters scribbled frantically. Nadira's lips parted slightly, her composure shifting into quiet awe. For the first time since the rooftop, her strength was not merely recognized, it was invited, valued, celebrated. Superintendent Glass smiled, That is a wonderful proposal, Mr. Halden. The district would support such a program wholeheartedly. The crowd broke into applause, genuine, warm, rising like a wave. Cameras flashed. Phones lifted. Nadira's face appeared on screens across the hall and across the entire district as comments began pouring into the live stream. Nadira is a hero in that SAS. Teach us, Nadira. She's so strong. This is the change we needed. Nadira exhaled softly, accepting the moment not because she wanted attention, but because she understood something vital. Her survival story was no longer just hers. It had become a catalyst, a symbol, and symbols reshape institutions. Just as Superintendent Glass was preparing to conclude the conference, her phone vibrated. She glanced at the screen, her expression shifting slightly. She tapped the microphone. "One final note," she said. "We've just been notified that this case has reached the final review stage with the school district police department. Their decision will determine the next phase." A sudden hush fell. Nadira's rise as a symbol of strength lit the auditorium, but the final judgment, the one that could lead to full criminal charges, still loomed. As officers gathered evidence for their final determination, the case moved beyond school politics into real legal territory. The school district police headquarters sat across from the main administrative building, a squat, gray structure with reinforced windows and a reputation for making final decisions no school could override. The atmosphere inside was brutally quiet, punctuated only by the occasional radio crackle or the hum of fluorescent lights. Inside a small conference room, Nadira sat across from two uniformed officers and a detective wearing a neatly pressed suit. A recorder blinked red on the table, capturing every breath. To her left, Dean Marlowe and Principal Rowan sat respectfully. Across the room, the Blaze Jackets, Riker, Zane, Milo, Trent, sat with their parents and attorney. Their faces were drained, hollow, beaten not by fists but by truth. Detective Lionel Graves, known for his zero-nonsense demeanor, folded his hands. After reviewing all evidence, including 3 independent camera recordings, student live streams, eyewitness accounts, and interviews, we are ready to issue our formal conclusions. The temperature in the room seemed to drop. Graves spoke with clinical precision. First, Riker Hale, Zane Whitlock, Trent Duvall, and Milo Ashford are found responsible for assault, coercion, reckless endangerment, and aggravated harassment. Riker's mother gasped sharply. Zane's father muttered something under his breath. Milo's mother squeezed her son's shoulder, shaking. Graves continued. Second, racial language, slurs, and targeted intimidation captured in audio and video constitute the basis for an enhanced hate crime indicator under district policy. That sentence hit harder than any punch. Riker's lawyer shot up from his chair. "Officer, that designation is excessive and unfair." Graves didn't blink. "It is accurate." The lawyer slowly sat back down. Nadira kept her breathing steady, though her pulse trembled beneath her skin. Graves shifted papers. Third, there is no evidence, none, that Miss Nadira Cole initiated violence. All actions she took were in direct response to repeated, escalating assaults. He turned toward Nadira. Miss Cole acted in legitimate and reasonable self-defense. She used techniques consistent with risk minimization and did not exceed necessary force. Nadira exhaled softly, her shoulders lowered by a fraction. The detective wasn't finished. Fourth, there will be no charges of any kind leveled against Miss Cole. She is declared fully and unequivocally innocent. Principal Rowan closed his eyes briefly in relief. Dean Marlowe nodded, jaw tight with pride. But Graves paused, folding his hands again. And fifth, everyone leaned in. A professional martial arts consultant reviewed the video with us. He stated that the hip throw you executed, in particular, the Tai Otoshi, was performed with perfect technique. Nadira blinked. She wasn't expecting commentary on her form. Graves added, voice deepening, "The consultant said something important. I think you should hear it." He lifted a notepad and read aloud. Had Nadira misjudged her balance or failed to redirect Riker's momentum precisely, she could have gone over the edge of the rooftop. A single misstep, one shift in weight, could have resulted in catastrophic injury, possibly fatal. The room tightened around her. Her throat closed slightly. She hadn't allowed herself to imagine what would have happened if she slipped. If she hadn't trained for years. If she hadn't listened to her coach's corrections or drilled the move 1,000 times. Detective Graves lowered the notepad. "Your skill didn't just defend you," he said quietly. "It saved your life." Nadira felt the words settle on her chest, heavy, humbling, powerful. Her judo was not just a sport, not just a childhood routine, not just a skill. It was the reason she was sitting upright in this room, breathing, alive. Across from her, Riker's expression crumbled entirely. His hands shook, whether from guilt, fear, or the dawning understanding of how close he came to causing a death no one could tell. Detective Graves concluded, "All case files will be forwarded to the County Youth Division. Formal charges may proceed. Meanwhile, the boys are prohibited from setting foot on Grantville High property." He closed the folder, a sound sharp enough to signal finality. "This meeting is adjourned." Students and parents began filing out, the boys escorted by officers, their shoulders slumped under the weight of consequences they could no longer escape. Nadira remained seated for a moment, feeling the room soften around her, not because the danger was gone, but because, for the first time in days, she wasn't fighting to survive. Detective Graves approached quietly. "You did well," he said, "and you handled yourself with more restraint than most adults would under similar threat." Nadira nodded, unsure how to respond. As she stepped outside the precinct office, the morning sun washed over her face. The sky was clear, almost unnervingly peaceful. She took a slow, steady breath, then another. Something inside her loosened. Not victory, not triumph. Just release. For the first time since the rooftop, she felt something she hadn't dared to imagine. A day at school without fear. Nadira walked toward campus with the knowledge that her strength and her training had saved her life. But the next chapter would test not her survival, but her identity in a changed school. A new morning begins at Grantville High, one where Nadira steps through the doors not as a victim, but as someone the whole school now sees differently. Morning sunlight spilled across Grantville High like a soft, golden curtain, gentle, warm, impossibly different from the shadows that once clung to it. Birds perched on the edge of the rooftop, the same rooftop that held yesterday's terror, now bathed in calm brightness. Students drifted through the courtyard in loose clusters. The energy was lighter, conversations quieter, almost reverent. For the first time in weeks, the air didn't feel charged with fear or division. And in the center of it all stood Nadira Cole, not hidden, not shrinking, not surviving, living. She wore a simple white t-shirt with the freshly printed logo, Grantville Girls Self-Defense Club. Founded by Nadira Cole, a circle of 15 girls surrounded her, each holding a borrowed mat or water bottle, each buzzing with nervous excitement as if they were about to join something historic. Mr. Halden stood nearby with a clipboard, grinning like a proud coach. "All right," he said, clapping his hands once. "First session. Make it unforgettable." Nadira inhaled slowly, grounding herself the way she always did before a match. The girls watched her closely, not with fear, but with admiration, trust, and anticipation. She stepped forward. "Welcome," she said, her voice strong but warm. "This is a space where we learn not how to fight, but how to stand, how to set boundaries, how to keep ourselves safe." The girls nodded eagerly. She continued, "What happened to me shouldn't happen to anyone. So today, we change that." A ripple of empowerment moved through the circle, as if the ground itself hummed beneath their feet. Behind them, students passing by slowed, watching with newfound respect. Nadira wasn't just the girl from the rooftop anymore. She had become something else, something bigger. A symbol, a guide, a protector. Across the courtyard, a group of boys whispered to each other, but instead of mocking or glaring, one of them nodded toward Nadira and said quietly, "She's legit. Don't mess with her." Change. Real change. The kind no announcement could force but courage could spark. Mr. Halden motioned for Nadira to begin. She demonstrated a simple stance, feet rooted, hands poised, posture balanced. Her movements were fluid, confident, practiced. The girls mirrored her, some stumbling, some catching on quickly. Good, she encouraged. Self-defense isn't about strength, it's about awareness, timing, belief in yourself. A younger girl raised her hand shyly. Were you scared? On the roof? Nadira paused. Honesty mattered. Yes, she said. I was terrified, but I remembered what I'd learned, and I trusted it. She smiled softly. Today, I want you to trust yourselves, too. The girl nodded, emboldened. The class continued pivots, balance drills, simple wrist releases. Each movement carried more meaning than technique. Each step was a reclaiming of space, of safety, of voice. From the teacher's lounge window, several faculty members watched, some wiping subtle tears. This was not just a club, it was a turning point. Across campus, the consequences for the Blazejackets played out quietly but firmly. Riker Hale, transferred to an alternative disciplinary school. Zane Whitlock, placed under mandated behavioral supervision. Trent Duval, removed from all athletics and put on probation. Milo Ashford, assigned counseling and strict monitoring. Their reign had ended not with humiliation, but with accountability, justice without cruelty, truth without vengeance, resolution without collapse. As Nadira's class wrapped up, the courtyard felt lighter, like a weight had finally lifted off the school's shoulders. The girls bowed in thanks. Nadira bowed back. Mr. Halden approached. How do you feel? Nadira looked at the students talking excitedly behind her, practicing moves with clumsy enthusiasm. Hopeful, she said. He smiled. You've changed this school more than you know. She wasn't sure about that, but she felt something new settling inside her, a quiet strength, not from fighting, but from healing. After the class dismissed, Nadira stepped away from the courtyard, breathing in the crisp air. She walked toward the side of the school where the shadows fell shorter, where things felt safe again. Then she lifted her gaze, upward, toward the rooftop, the place where fear tried to drown her, where cruelty tried to break her, where injustice tried to silence her. Now it looked different. Not a battlefield, a conquered summit. Her summit. Sunlight glinted off the railing. The breeze carried distant laughter from her students, and Nadira smiled softly, but with the full weight of victory behind it. Not victory over the boys, not over the school, but over fear, over injustice, over the silence imposed on so many before her. A new beginning was blooming not just for her, but for everyone who finally saw the truth. Nadira lowered her chin, her smile widening just enough to show quiet triumph. The rooftop no longer haunted her because she had defeated not just her attackers, but the shadow they cast over her life. When truth comes to light, the power of bullies collapses, and the courage of one student can break an entire system of silence. And that's how a rooftop meant to break her became the place she finally broke them. Their lies collapsed, their arrogance shattered, and the world got to see what happens when a judo champion refuses to stay silent. But tell me, if you were standing on that rooftop, what moment would have shocked you the most? Drop your thoughts in the comments below. And before you go, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe to support stories that expose the truth and uplift the ones who fight back.